This is Professional Insights brought to you by the National Referral Network and hosted by this guy right here. And I'm here with the guy who looks like he could be on the Jedi Council, but we'll get to him in just a second. He's coming to us from Georgia. He's a health insurance expert, and we're going to talk all things health insurance. But before I do that, I want to read a quick disclaimer. This broadcast is for those who would benefit from the information we're sharing. And it's for the edification, professional edification of all those who would listen to this and learn from what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to quit being tongue-tied here and say, Jim, thanks for giving us a few minutes. Jim, you're a health insurance expert both in the group and individual space, and we're going to talk about something that affects everybody. It affects everybody because we need health insurance, and oh my God, are we paying for it right
Indeed.
now? So, Jim, let me start beginning at the beginning. We talked for a second before we got on the broadcast about you being a broker and why it's generally advisable for people to work through a broker as opposed to themselves or online or whatever. Walk me through that real quick.
Well, I think there's a general feeling that if I go do the research and I go find the health plan for my family, for my group here at work, it will be less expensive than if I go to someone who's an expert and have them go out and look at all the plans out there, do all the legwork for me. And it's just not true. The prices are set.
They're the same. So it's like you get a free helper.
Yeah. And somebody who's in it every single day instead of someone whose specialty may be, creating parts that go on a tank. But suddenly I've got to be an insurance expert and I'm going to go find us health insurance.
Now, what do you say to people who go, oh, wait a minute, you sell only these health plans, but I saw these other health plans. Are you repping every health plan in your marketplace usually?
Absolutely. I have the ability to shop all the plans in the marketplace and then bring back options that we can compare and contrast.
Okay.
And then my job is to educate the individual, whether it's a family or whether it's a group, and let them make the best decision for themselves or their employees.
Okay, so let's go there for a second. So someone says, wait a minute, you're quoting me a premium of, I don't know, $2,000 a month. I can get it for $1,000. What? And they're looking at it through that lens. When you start, and there could be a bunch of reasons why that's true, by the way. But sure. when you, how do you have that conversation? How do you unpack all that is health insurance for people so that they understand it and they understand that you get what you pay for?
Exactly. Well, I tell them first and foremost, my job as an insurance agent is to mitigate risk. And so the plans that I bring back to you keep you from getting that huge surprise bill in the mail that you are responsible for. But rather, I bring a plan that says, at this point, there's a dead stop after which you pay no more. And I want to make sure that my clients understand where that spot is. Many plans out there are very secretive about what it exactly covers and doesn't cover. There's a plan out of New Jersey that's $99 a month. It doesn't cover anything, but if you have a problem, Rocco will discuss it with you. That's tongue in cheek, of course, but at the same time, there are plans that do just about everything. I want to bring plans back to people that actually do the job of covering them and have a backstop that says, after this, you pay no more.
And so you're walking people through, for example, how much the deductible is. And the deductible, for those that don't know, is the amount that comes out of your pocket initially before the insurance kicks in. Okay. And typically the higher the deductible, the lower the premium. And so you're breaking all this down so to come up with what fits the best. Is that correct?
That is correct. I want to find out what their appetite is for a deductible. Does $2,000 sound like a really big number, or does $6,000 sound like a really big number? Where do they want to be there? And then where's their budget? And then maybe we can dial this thing back and forth until we find something that is, kind of meets both in the middle.
Now, what about those people who say, well, wait a minute, I have a plan that, I pay $10 and they give me everything. Okay.
I say, that's fantastic. I'd love to look at the paperwork behind that plan. Did they send you a complete coverage detail sheet that I could help walk you through?
Of course, I'm talking about the old HMO model. And
right.
how it seems like that model has changed a lot over the last few years, and the preferred provider, there's really, let's stop there. There's really always been sort of two options, the HMO and the PPO. Let's define those just for a second.
Okay. The health management organization was designed to limit your access to, first and foremost, your primary care provider, PCP in the networks, your primary care provider, where that person became your gateway to the other providers. If you go to them and say, hey, I need this mole on my arm looked at, they may say, oh, I can handle that in my office, rather than sending you off to someone that specializes in dealing with skin issues of one type, or a dermatologist, whatever. And with the PPO, you just go to the specialist, the preferred provider organization. You just go. If I've got something on, I just make an appointment with a skin doctor and say, hey, I need this looked at. And so the insurance companies decided that by using these HMOs, they could limit your usage of specialists and therefore keep costs down.
So it doesn't sound like you're a big fan of HMOs.
I'm not in most instances. If someone is somewhat of a homebody and they live in a small town or even a big town and they never really go anywhere or do anything, and all the services they need are close by, an HMO may be fine. But the PPO, for the person who wants to take off to Houston and go to MD Anderson because they've got cancer, the HMO, you're stuck. You're staying in your state. So unless you want to pay completely out of network, out of pocket.
And out-of-network benefits, let's talk about that for a second, are a fraction of what in-network benefits are. Are most doctors these days part of some kind of network?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. There are a few now that take no insurance at all. Most of those are naturopaths and specialists who just say, hey, and even some chiropractors who say, hey, I'm just not going to take insurance. Mm-hmm. I'm a cash and carry kind of guy.
Right. Okay. But, most of the time, if you're with the major carriers right now are who? United Healthcare is one, Anthem, Blue Shield, I think.
Anthem's part of Blue Cross Blue Shield is Anthem.
Right, is Anthem, right. Kaiser, of course.
Kaiser, Aetna. And you also left out Humana.
Humana, that's right. So those are like the big five, okay, nationally that you. So what is the first, so once you explain to somebody, from a pricing standpoint, what kind of plan likely fits for them, then is it a discussion of, okay, who is your doctor and where do you need to get your care? And is there enough network availability for you? Do you start going there?
I do a lot of that up front before I ever even come back with any solutions. I find out, are there doctors that you just cannot change? Okay. Let's make sure that what I bring back includes them being in the network that I propose.
So in other words, this plan is only as good as your ability to use it.
That's right.
Okay. Now, what happens when somebody does get a bill they weren't expecting? I got this bill from the doctor's office and I wasn't supposed to get it. Is it often that the doctor's office doesn't bill correctly, and should people say resubmit the claim? Does that happen a lot?
It does. A matter of fact, I could reach back here on my shelf and pull out a book called Never Pay the First Bill. And it talks specifically about the fact that you may see a bill for the full amount of your doctor visit for 3 or 4 different reasons. They may have filed it incorrectly. They may not have filed it at all. The insurance company may have not acted on it yet. You've got several reasons why I would never pay a bill immediately. I would wait at least 30 to 45 days to make sure that everything has settled. And then if there's still something about it that you don't like, contact your doctor's office, contact your insurance company, find out that the claim was actually filed.
Right.
And if it wasn't, get them to go back and file it or file it correctly.
Yeah. If the I's are not dotted and the T's are not crossed correctly, they'll just reject the claim. It goes back to the doctor's office, and the doctor's office bills the patient, says, and oftentimes, is it true that they bill the patient? They just throw them right into collections almost immediately?
We haven't seen as much of that, but yeah, if you go 90 days, it's just like on day 90, boom, you drop right into the collections. Okay.
Is it a good idea for, you mentioned you do some group health as well. Is it a good idea for enrollees on a group plan to contact the insurance company before they're going to go to the doctor for this or that, other than just, routine visits?
It's gotten to the point now where if it's something different, something, elevated above a regular visit, sinus infection or, strep throat or something like that, where a lot of these organizations will contact your insurance company immediately upon you making the appointment to make sure that this is a covered event. And you may get a phone call back and says, hey, I talked to the insurance company and they're not going to cover this.
Okay.
And so we're seeing the doctor's offices being much more proactive because it impacts their ability to collect the funds for you having come in.
Right. We are seeing that the doctor's offices are a lot more upfront about what's going to be covered and are advising people
Right.
upfront a lot rather than just say, hey, come on in, we'll send you the bill. What are some of the other things that people need to know about maybe some of the changes that are either occurring or about to occur in health insurance?
Two things come to mind very quickly. One deals with max out of pockets. We haven't talked about that terminology yet.
Yeah.
Most plans come with a max out of pocket number that says, once you reach this point, you have nothing else coming out of pocket on covered items.
And those maxes tend to be what, 10, they're as high as 10.
This year it's $9,100 is the standard on the Affordable Care Act plans, $9,100.
All right.
That's up from $8,700 last year and $8,300 the year. It goes up substantially every single year as they try to keep prices down. If you believe that, as expensive as they are, they do have to increase these things to try to suppress the price increases.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's one thing that people need to be aware of, is that max out of pocket does change year to year. The other thing is, if you are on a group plan and you change jobs and your new company is not going to cover you for the first, say 90 days, maybe you have to have 3 months of service and then the first of the next month. So it can be almost 4 months before you get health insurance at that new job. Before you had the options, and still do, to take COBRA insurance, which is continuation of benefits from your old job. Right. If they had a group plan. Mm-hmm. That can sometimes be a real shock as to how expensive that can be, because you're paying at least double what you were paying before, and sometimes a lot more.
Right.
And then the other option, a lot of people would go and get a 90-day bridge plan that would cover them between the jobs. We're going to see bridge plans, or short-term plans as they call them, continue to be pressed down and down and down. I'm seeing more and more states saying, okay, you can never have more than 2 short-term plans back to back, or you can only have it for 3 months, or you can only have it for 6 months. Okay. Where a lot of people have been using these short-term plans as their year-round coverage, we're going to see less and less of the states allow for this as more and more people move to the Affordable Care Act options.
Okay. So it sounds like a great deal of what you do is just to educate people about what to buy and how to use it so they don't get into trouble or step on one of these landmines.
Yeah.
And that happens continuously, does it not? Because the landscape is always shifting.
Yes.
So are you reviewing and re-quoting and looking in the market annually, I think, isn't it?
At least annually, yes. Everyone who comes up for renewal, we go back and we just go to square one and we go through the entire process again to make sure something hasn't changed in their health, something hasn't changed in the size of their family or in the size of the group. And we just take a look at what the best option. Your company may have gone with Humana last year. United Healthcare may be a better choice this year. It's just a matter of reviewing all the options that are out there.
And the health insurance companies always seem to be jockeying for position that way. So that's very possible. Yeah, you could see, well, you were with United last year, but Humana's, and they have to they have to understand that, especially for small businesses where this is such a big ticket item. Let me ask an uncomfortable question here, but nobody likes what health insurance costs, and no one likes the trajectory of the increases over the years. And do we see that? And again, we talked about the Affordable Care Act. Now, I'm not trying to get into that, but we can say it was always an attempt to make it less expensive. Ultimately, whether it did that is debatable depending upon where you live. But do you see this problem going from bad to worse? Has it leveled off? I mean, what do you see in the future from an expense standpoint?
From an expense perspective, the first few years of the Affordable Care Act were pretty painful. We came in over budget at almost every insurance company in the country, and we were seeing double-digit increases, in some cases 60 and 70% increases year over year in the early days. But this seems to have leveled off as they now are getting a better feel for what is this going to look like. And the insurance companies are able to better project what these expenses are going to look like for them based on generalities, and have all the actuaries doing their thing. We're seeing smaller increases. We're seeing 3, 4, 5, and 6% increases year over year, which are a lot more palatable than those double-digit increases we saw earlier on.
So no longer are you getting this premium notice and you get a heart attack, and the heart attack from the premium notice kills you. Yeah, I remember those days. And back in the 2010s to 2015, seems like I remember getting them myself in my own business and going, "What just happened?"
Yeah.
And then you're right; it did level off. I even had a couple of years where it went down a little bit. But yeah, we again, nobody likes what it costs, and just about everybody is looking for ways to manage the expense. All the more reason to work with a broker who's out there looking at everything all the time and helping you manage the expense as best they can.
Yeah.
So one last question as we sort of end here. This is brought to you by the National Referral Network. You know that the Referral Network has a multitude of different professionals, different persuasions. How do you feel that helps you be a better professional?
That's an easy question. One of the things that we all want to be for our clients is a trusted advisor.
Right.
And when we have the ability to help them address multiple issues, not just health insurance, but we can say, hey, that's a tax issue. Are you working with a CPA? Could I help you find a CPA? Oh, wait, that's an estate planning issue. Do you have a will? Would you like to talk with someone who could help you with, there are financial advisors in our network. Is there someone who could help you with that? The big life insurance that you need, or whatever these items are. I have the ability to draw on experts who are leaders in their field, and without even a moment's consideration towards, I hope they do a good job, because I know they do a good job, I can say, hey, you need to talk to this person, or hey, you need to talk to that person. They will take care of you. They will handle this for you very, very well. And I'm glad to hand them off. And so it's great to be that go-to person for your client, where they can feel comfortable going to you and say, hey, do you know anybody who, and you can immediately point them to individuals that can get them to that, get whatever that issue is resolved, or help them explore that issue further.
Right. Yeah, no, you're right. That's so very important. Well, thanks, Jim. I really appreciate I love talking about this. It's an interesting subject to me, and it's something that touches everyone, and we appreciate your time.
Oh, very, very glad to do it. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk with you about it. Please, let's talk again sometime.
And we will be back here next Tuesday, same time, same station. So be with us for other discussions with other professionals. We're going to keep this as interesting as possible. Thanks, everyone.